Hey good people, welcome to FiddleHed Fiddle Lessons. Today we're gonna learn to read notes on the E string. And this lesson is part of my efforts to teach fiddlers of the world how to read sheet music so that you can learn the tunes that you love. And what makes it unique, I think, is that I'm trying to present it sheet music reading in a very intuitive, simple way, showing you only the essential things you need to know. So let's get started. The first step to really getting and reading music is to know the note names so we can learn the note names on the E string. We're going to learn 4 notes, the last 4 notes of the E major scale, which are E, F sharp, G sharp, and A. If you don't already know those note names, I suggest you learn them, and I have some lessons on a fun thing called the note name game, which is basically a little call and response way of learning each note and practicing it, like E, F sharp, G sharp, A. And as you get better at the game, you can say and play the notes at the same time. E, F sharp, E, F sharp, G sharp, and so on. So as a warm-up to this lesson, I strongly suggest you perhaps pause the video and really practice. Just make sure you got those note names down. So a big part of the Note Reading for Fiddlers course is to get you to read in small chunks, small increments. In fact, that's the philosophy behind the whole FiddleHed course, is that if you take things in small steps, you're more likely to have small wins and succeed with whatever the thing is you're learning, even if it's something very technically challenging. Okay, so today we're going to build on our note reading skills by learning these notes on the E string. I've already done lessons on reading on D, reading on A, reading on G, and beginning rhythm. Reading rhythm lessons, and I think it would be good for you to do those first. Just a suggestion. So now we're going to look at some screen video for what I'm talking about, and we're going to look at how these notes are written. So here's E, F sharp, which is E1, G sharp, which is E2, and A. This little clip, this little snippet here, I call it the note finder. It's kind of a legend that helps you figure out the note names and the tabs of the music. For other lessons on the site for like tunes and different techniques of scrolling down to the bottom, you'll find this thing, sorry for the fast scroll, called, it's called the Note Finder. So it's in this section called the Practice Toolkit, and just kind of a toolkit of handy things to help you learn and have fun practicing. And so basically, whenever you're learning any tune, if you want, you can use this to help you figure out how to read the sheet music. Even though you don't necessarily need sheet music to learn on FiddleHed. In fact, a lot of people aren't interested. A lot of FiddleHed students just want to learn to play by ear, and that's fine too. I just present note reading as a kind of a good extra tool to help you learn things, the things that I haven't taught, say, all right? So going back to our lesson where we're at up here, again, sorry for the fast scroll, but we're back up. And so we're going to use this little note finder to help us figure out sheet music. So let's just dive into some exercises. I believe in learning by doing and starting to just read things without really even knowing the rules too much, taking an intuitive approach. Okay, so looking at the first bar, we have 4 notes. If you've taken the reading rhythm lesson, the beginning lesson on that, you'll know that this is a quarter note. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are exact 4 quarter notes in that bar. And you'll know that this box, these lines separate the bars. So this exercise is 1, 2, 3, 4 bars long, and so are the rest of the exercises. Okay, and so what you can do is use the note finder. Just go up here and be like, okay, so this first bar, the first note is E, and it looks like all the other notes are the same. So we have 4 E's in their quarter notes. And I suggest you do this bar by bar if you're really new or uncertain about it. Just simply play the first bar. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? And if you think you got it, then do it a few times without looking at the music. And then try to look at the music a little bit. And then try to do both at the same time. Just reading. And do it again. So this 3-step process is something I call intuitive note reading. You figure out what it is you're going to be reading using the note finder or whatever methods you have. Maybe it's already tabbed. You play it a little bit until you can actually play that thing. So that's the first step, play it. Next step is read it without playing. So you just look at the notes, no tabs or anything if possible. And then finally, you do both at the same time. You may want to do it on a single repetition or you could just continuously read that first bar. So if we do this on every bar, then you're sure to succeed because you'll be able to get each bar. And if you can't figure out what that is, you're totally stumped. Go to the second part of the exercise and you'll see the audio track for it. So I'm going to start it over. 1, 2. And start by just playing it or listening to it. Okay, changes there. Goes to the first finger, I think. Maybe pluck along in the second finger. Cowbell tells us we've started the exercise over. So basically, if you are hearing this music and you're seeing it through these exercises without knowing much about the rules, the symbols, the terminology, you're just going to start to get the gist of it, okay, of how it works. And then we just make it progressively more complicated, and you'll eventually get everything if you just keep returning to these simple exercises. So moving forward, we see the next bar is all F sharp, the third bar is all G sharp, fourth bar is all A. For F sharp, we need to put a sharp symbol in front of it, and then that sharp symbol lasts for the duration of the bar. All right, because there's no sharps or anything in the key signature, we'll get to more on that in a minute. It means we have to actually write the sharp symbols in the bar, okay? That's called an accidental. Don't worry, I'm not going to test you on that, but that's the fancy music name for when we put sharp symbols or flat symbols in the music. Okay, and that's G sharp. Okay, so cool. Let's move on. Exercise 2A is the same exact thing as exercise 1, but we have a key signature. So that's F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp, which means we don't have to write those sharp symbols here. And that's cool because it makes the written music easier to read. So you're like, okay, I got, this is 3 sharps. It's in A major. That's what 3 sharps is. And now it'll be easier for us to read. Here's a tip for you. If you do learn a few of the most basic key signatures, which are D, G, and A, just play the major scale before you start. It'll help you a lot. So this is A major. I'll just play an A major scale. And then you're set up to really read better. The whole basis of the way I teach is that you first learn to play, and then once you can play, you learn to read what you already can play. Then it's a lot easier to learn how to read. Hope that makes sense. So, and you could do this with any other method. I mean, any other book or whatever, as long as there's audio or you've somehow, like with a teacher, learned something, then you go and look at sheet music for that exact same thing and let your brain start to do this translation process. So again, exercise 2 is the same as 1, but we instead of writing sharps in the music or on the staff, we write our sharps in the key signature. In this case, it's A major. All right, and so most of these exercises, I think all the exercises on this page are in A major because we're basically learning the notes of the A major scale. So let's do one more example. So example 3. So sorry, I'm going to go back to example 2. Notice that this is all quarter notes. So in the earlier lesson in this course, I teach you how to read different note lengths. So we start with quarter notes because they're kind of the most common basic note length. And then we learn eighth notes, which are here. And then we eventually learn half notes. And so just a side note, in fiddle music, you'll most often encounter quarter and eighth notes, and then something called dotted notes, which I'll teach you in a little while, not in this lesson. And so anyhow, looking at the first 2 bars, these are half notes that get 2 counts, 1, 2. So it looks like we got 2 half notes in the first bar, 2 half notes in the second bar. So just talking it through to kind of like, ideally you'll be able to figure out these exercises without my talking. And I don't even think it's necessary for you to watch the video if you have the exercises, but I'm just talking it through to kind of help you a little bit and to kind of like think through, maybe there's something that I'm missing that you'll need. So anyway, you do the same process. You look, okay, well, I'm starting to get what this note is, but I'll check it. I think that's an E. And then check up here. Yep, that's an E. And so you can keep returning to the legend or the note finder. And so this is basically going to be all 4 of those notes walking up. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. And if that's not clear to you, then stay with that for a little while. Loop on those first 2 bars, or even the first bar. Okay? Now I'm just going to talk through the next 2 bars. So now we don't have any more half notes. This first note is a quarter note, and it is E. I'm starting to get that. This next one is F sharp, and these are both the same. So that the first 3 notes is long, short, short. Another huge tip for learning to read sheet music is to look for patterns. So I know that the first 2 bars, the pattern is all half notes. Here I notice, if I really pay attention, and this may be hard at first, but it'd be like, well, we have a quarter and 2 eighths, quarter and 2 eighths, quarter and it's all the same rhythm. It's a long, short, short. If you've been with FiddleHed a while, you know that that's a hoedown pattern. Long, short, short, long, short, short. All right? And so now I'm going to start to put this together. We have E, F sharp twice, G sharp, A twice. So that 3rd bar sounds like. Let me do it again. All right, and then I look at the next bar, and I'm going to move a little bit more quickly, but if I do the same process of checking the notes with the note finder, I just discover it's the same thing going down. So now that you've kind of struggled a little bit, figured out what you can using the first part of the exercise, go to the second part of the exercise and try to play along with the play along track. I'm going to start it over. 1, 2, 3, 4. Cowbell means it started over. All right. So again, now that once you get to the point where you can do this whole thing, even if it doesn't sound that good, just fine. Then you can do this process of just playing it, then just reading it, and then playing and reading at the same time. And do it in your own way. Be creative with how you practice. Like maybe oh, I really need to just practice this thing. I want to memorize it and practice it. And that's actually a good idea to memorize it, even though we're practicing reading. So you could turn away from the sheet music and just practice it until you got it. And then just read it and then do both at the same time. Then you could go and do that with the audio. So let's do one whole round of, we're going to start by just playing, just reading, and then doing both at the same time. Feel free to play along with me if you got it. All right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Just play. Just read. Now do both at the same time. I'll go back to just playing. So, you may not need to go back to that step of just playing, but I think it's a good step because it allows your brain to kind of rest. It has less stuff to do. Oh, cool, I don't have to read, just play it. Then it also allows you to return to the sound and kind of, okay, I can get my sound back, because what'll happen is when you start reading and playing, you'll probably notice that like your bow gets off, it's unaligned, your tuning gets off, and because there's a lot to remember. So that step, you're really being kind to your brain. I'm just gonna read. I'm just gonna play. Now I'm just gonna read. So you take away all the challenge of playing, and I'm just reading and trying to see how this works by listening to the audio. And then you do the challenging step of doing both at the same time. So I hope that makes sense. Again, like, practice creatively in what works for you, okay? So the rest of all these exercises are all there. There's going to be different rhythms, different note lengths, but I think that it's roughly all the same sort of stuff. Then I have all the sheet music written, just looking at the screen video out for you. And so you can print this and kind of, when you get better at reading these, do these exercises a lot. And then when you get better at them, then try to just use the printed sheet music, because that'll be an extra challenge for you. And then you can go and do it with the audio again to kind of check to see if you've done it right. So that's about it for this. So I have more coming up in this Note-Reading for Fiddlers course. And let me know what your questions are, because your questions and your feedback has already made this, to my thinking, a better course. Because, like, for example, the way these exercises are divided into 1A and 1B, that just sort of happened after starting the course and working with students. I realized, oh, that would be a good way to do it. So I've gone back, and for the older ones I've done it, I've changed them and updated them to this format of, like, you have just the sheet music, and then you have the sheet music and the audio. It's just a little bit more of a challenge, but then you always have the audio. So point is, if you have questions, let me know. Give me your feedback, and I'm gonna hopefully be done with this whole mini course soon, and hopefully it helps you to play tunes you love. That's the whole point. Let's close with that. The whole point of this is not just some abstract exercise. Maybe if you're a mathy person, you love that. But to me, the whole point of this is I want you to be able to play music you love. You find, like, some book on Cajun fiddle or whatever, and you're like, oh, this looks so fun, but I don't know how to read sheet music. I want you to be able to, like, jumpstart you with that and help you with that. Okay, cool. Thanks for watching FiddleHed, and we'll see you soon. Go to FiddleHed.com for a progressive, step-by-step course outline, color-coded tabs, play-along tracks, sheet music, and much more. Thanks for watching the video. Excellent! And don't forget to subscribe. Thanks.